Hi, everyone. My name is Vincenzo Berghella. Thanks again to another sessions with Adrian FM and Extraordinaire within me. Again, the idea, brainchild of Kavita Narang. We have an amazing guest today who's going to be introduced by Kavita. Kavita, again, good morning. I know it's really early where you are.
Good morning. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. If you can believe it or not, today this is actually our 11th episode. So we're almost a year into doing this, Extraordinary Within You. And I'm so grateful to all our followers who have been listening from all over the world. Today we have a very, very special guest, Dr. Alfred Abuhamad, joining us today. Dr. Abuhamad currently serves as the Executive Vice President of the Macon and Joanne Brock Virginia Health Sciences at Old Dominion University. He's also the past President, Provost, and Dean of Eastern Virginia Medical School, and served as past President of the Society for Maternal Fetal Medicine, Society of Ultrasound in Education, and Perinatal Quality Forum, and the Society and the American Institute of Ultrasound in Medicine. He's a world-renowned expert and well-known internationally for his work in ultrasound, prenatal diagnosis, fetal echo, global outreach, and patient safety. I feel like I could go on and on and on about Dr. Abuhamad's, contribution to all of our education and to science and to patient care, but I would love to hear it from the man himself. So welcome, Dr. Alfred Abuhamad, to our session today. We always love to start with gratitude. So if I may invite you to share maybe something you're grateful for.
Well, thank you, Kavita. Thank you, Vince, for this honor to be here. I'm humbled by sitting in front of you and doing this. Gratitude for me, probably all the people that came into my life. I think, as they say, we are the people who come into our lives in a big way. And I'm so grateful for all the friends that I have, for all my patients that I had the honor to serve, my family, my friends. So really my gratitude and where I am in my career and how I can impact people in a positive way. So thank you for the honor.
That's so beautiful. Thank you. Vince, go ahead.
Well, today, Kavita, I'll share gratitude for having Alfred in my life, actually. I remember when I first met him many, many East walks ago. He was already very famous and bigger than life. I was, I think, a fellow. I think it was in the South America. Him and Giancarlo Mari were there, and I was, of both of them. And Alfred was so humble, was so nice, was so friendly. We call each other brothers. I call him Alfredo because, to me, he's as Lebanese as Italian. and having people like him in my life that I can talk about anything, not only professional, but personal, the personal troubles I've had that I've shared with him. He has been a column of strength, great advice, pushing forward and staying positive, and I will never thank him enough for what he's done for my life. So again, Alfred, it's an honor to have you here today.
Well, thank you, Vincenzo. I'm really humbled.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Vince. Like I can see the love and the brotherhood and the friendship between you both just shine through this. And I already know this is going to be such an exciting episode. Thank you, Vince. That was beautiful. Along those lines, for me, I would say I'm grateful for beautiful connections and relationships in my life, whether it is, family, friends, mentors like you both, and, all great leaders around the world. I think it's these connections, no matter how big or small, it's what makes us feel alive. It's what gives meaning to your life every day. It's what drives our purpose. So I'm grateful for all of that. Thank you for being here. And then we'll jump right in. And, our favorite question to start all our sessions always is, if we like to go back all the way to your childhood. And if you can share a little bit about how your childhood shaped who you are today, maybe, even as a person or as your career, we'd love to hear all about that.
Yeah, thank you. So I am number 4 of 5 kids in our family. Middle-class family, grew up in Beirut, Lebanon. During the war started when I was around 13 years old. The civil war started. My parents both never really got a chance to go to college. So, but from the beginning, my dad and mom had a very strong influence and interest in education. And despite, limited resources, my dad always pushed us to work hard, always pushed us to study, and that was very, very important to him. I think he felt that he wanted to give his kids what he did not have a chance to have. I remember him always saying that education is really your ticket into the future, no matter what happens. And I remember my mom, very busy household with 5 kids, that in the afternoon when she's done cooking and all this, she's always had a small notebook and she would read and then write notes so she can learn English over French. And that left an incredible impression on me growing up to value education. So I was in Lebanon for high school, changed a lot of high schools because of the war. So I had to move. I think in the last 3 years, I had 4 high schools actually that I went to. And then I had really the privilege to go into the American University of Beirut, which is an incredible university that has a very, very strong program and is linked to New York as a chartered university. So I went as pre-med to the university. And I think growing up, I always knew that I was going into medicine. I was the only child that went into medicine in my household. Unsure why, but probably because I had good grades in high school. And usually that was the path. In Lebanon, I think you had 3 paths: medical school, business, engineering, then business, or something like that. So the war was really very challenging. Electricity was very scarce. A lot of really war activities in neighborhoods close to where we lived. It was challenging to go. I mean, I remember walking to high school, my one before last high school that I went to. The walking distance was about 25 minutes to get to the school from our apartment in downtown Beirut. I had learned where the building openings are in case there were incoming explosions. I knew where to jump to avoid being held. And in the classroom, actually, there was a big hole in the middle of the classroom, like a pillar that supports the building. We were fighting who's going to sit behind the pole to avoid, any glass that would come, any explosion happen. So that's the environment I grew up in. I think I look back and reflect, it gave me a lot of strong foundation to value what we are granted every day and what we have every day that we don't think about. And I went to pre-med. I worked really hard. After 2 years of pre-med, I was admitted into medical school. And by the 3rd year of my medical school, I had decided I want to go into OBGYN. And so my dad, with his wisdom, he came to me and he said, Alfred, I strongly recommend you work hard to get to the United States. Because of the war and what's happening here, the future is really challenging. So he supported me in coming and doing an elective in the United States to help improve my chances to come and match in the U.S. So I'm taking you, this was 1983. I have been out of the country once. I went to London because my 2 older brothers had left to London during the war to train, to do their education there. So he said, I have $1,000 I can give you. Go and spend 2 to 3 months in the US, and hopefully you can impress them so you have a better chance of getting through the match. It's a bit of a funny story, if you may. I will share this. So I flew from, I sent 2 applications, one to the University of Miami, because my neighbor in the building where we lived was doing a surgery residency at the University of Miami. And I felt he would go in and talk to the OBGYN department and tell them about me. And the second application, ironically enough, to EVMS, of all there was, I don't know, maybe 150 medical schools at that time. So why EVMS? Because in the 1960s and early 70s, there was a famous physician who was the chairman of the Department of OBGYN at the American University of Beirut. William Bickers was his name. My dad knew him, and when I decided to go into OBGYN, he had since left Lebanon, but he is from Richmond originally, Richmond, Virginia.
Oh, wow.
So my dad reached out to him through letters and correspondence and said, my son is interested in OBGYN. What do you suggest? At that time, Howard and Georgiana Jones have moved to EVMS, and there was a lot of IVF activities here. So Dr. Bakers recommended to my dad that I apply to EVMS. So I sent these 2 letters, no cell phones, no emails, these are the good old days. About a month or 2 later, I got a reply from EVMS, and the chairman of the department was Mason Andrews, was his name. And he sent me a letter saying, thank you for your interest. We don't accept international or foreign medical students into our program. I remember I was crushed because that was the first rejection out of 2. If you had told me as a 3rd-year medical student then that one day you are going to be the president of EVMS, I would have said this is totally crazy. And my title now, as you see, is Mason C. Andrews Professor and Chair. When I was a chair. So I ended up going to the University of Miami, and there's a very funny story how I ended up in my first days at the University of Miami. So I got accepted from the University of Miami. So I flew to New York. I remember the flight was delayed, so I had to spend the night in New York. So I had no contacts in Miami. I didn't pre-plan where I was going to stay, nothing. So I spent the night, and I was, this was 1983. I was 22 years old. So I remember the plane was delayed, and they put us in a hotel in, I don't know where, but I woke up in the morning. It was this was in December, in the 3rd week of December. It was a clear morning, but it was very, very cold. And I walk out of the hotel and I see the Manhattan skyline in front of me. And that was a vision I never forgot, how impressive that was, to see that. So I took a flight to Miami. I landed at 11 p.m. So thinking through, okay, what am I thinking at 22 years old? What am I going to do on New Year's Eve? This was like two days before New Year's Eve. I figured, I'll be in a hotel for the first few days. Maybe they'll have a party. I will join. So I'm walking at the airport at the University of Miami, and I'm hearing the announcements. Now, mind you, I've never been in the U.S. before, right? I traveled only once, very naive kid. And I hear the announcement, Mr. Jimenez, meet your party at the lower level concourse. And I said, oh my God, they have parties at the airport here. This is incredible. So I go, I pick up my huge suitcase and I walk outside of the airport, and it's 11:30 p.m. at night. And I had this weird feeling because it was warm and it was raining. In the Middle East, especially around Lebanon, there are 4 seasons, and usually summer there's no rain, and rain is always associated with the cold weather. So it was a weird feeling. So I stopped the taxi and I said, take me to the closest hotel to Jackson Memorial Hospital. So in the 80s, this area was super, super dangerous. And the taxi driver said, are you sure you want to go there? And I said, yes, why? He said, it is dangerous. It's not safe. I said, what do I care? I'm coming from Beirut. So how bad? So he took me to the Days Inn across the street from Jackson. That motel was so special to my heart, and they actually tore it down like 6-7 years ago. But every year I made to Miami, I go and drive around it because it was so special. He said, I'm not getting out of the car. I'll open the trunk for you. So I pulled my suitcase and they buzzed me into the motel, right? The door was like inaccessible. So I walk in and I say, I would like to stay here tonight. How much is the night? And the guy said it's $70. So I figured out I will run out of money within a short period of time. I said, why is it so expensive? And he said, it's because of the Orange Bowl. So put that in perspective. I have no idea what an Orange Bowl is. Yeah, I have no idea what an Orange Bowl. I paid, it was late at night, I had no choice. I go into the room looking for the Orange Bowl that is making this room so expensive. and it took me 3 weeks to realize that the Orange Bowl was really Miami versus Nebraska for the championship of and the Orange Bowl is about 3 blocks from where this paid my stay. The next day I said I need to get out. So I started walking around and I found there was a subsidized motel by Jackson called Jackson Towers. I dragged my suitcase. I walked my way there. It was about $35 a night, so that was more tolerable. But then I realized that my hopes for the New Year's dash is gone because there was a 7-Eleven and a Hardee's on the first floor. So I bought myself 6 packs and I went to my room and I guess I fell asleep and I woke up with all these explosions. And I said, oh my God, they're fighting here. And I look and it says Happy New Year. So this is my first 2 days in the US in 1980. Then I ended up at the University of Miami, did the elective. I matched at the university, did my residency and fellowship there and an ultrasound fellowship at Yale.
Wow.
Wow. What a story, Alfred. I guess we're on the, I think for people that will know you, maybe we'll continue. One of the things that I wanted to get to in this hours is the, meteoric rise of your career. We often bring up here the fact that, should become, division director or chairman, but you have, gone way past that. And I think it'd be good at some point for you to explain some of that path, after you came and you haven't been afraid of anything, maybe it's this past that you just described, the war and the explosions in Miami and the $70, etc. Great story. But you've been so positive and you've really, again, we say, executive director. I think a lot of people here don't even know what that means. Maybe you want to expand on, again, even past, your path at EVMS, division director chair, but past that.
So the story is interesting also how I ended up at EVMS, right? Because I came to the University of Miami, I did my residency, and I always knew I wanted to stay in academics, really. And I always was interested in research and interested in being an academician. And we were a very busy residency program in Miami, but I managed to do some publications and to really work through the program. And then I did a fellowship. Talking about rejection, and I shared that with my fellows. Out of the residency from Miami, I applied to a lot of fellowship programs. And I got only 4 interviews, even though I had several publications, really, and a very busy residency program. So I interviewed at these 4 places. One place I decided I didn't want to go there and I was offered a fellowship. And then I decided to stay at the University of Miami. So to me, this was a rejection initially that really helped me to work harder and helped me to do more effort into the future. So I did my fellowship at the University of Miami. Then you see how the influence of your faculty around you is so critical on your career. So Tony Lai, who is now in practice at in Miami in MFM, was a faculty that I really aspired to be like and I looked up to in a big way. He came to me one day and he said, Alfred, why don't you look at Yale? They have an ultrasound fellowship there. And they are a program and they're doing a lot of work. It was him that really opened the door for me. I applied and I got in and I did a fellowship in ultrasound. That changed the trajectory of my career, as you know, because my main focus now is imaging and more on the fetal side. So I wanted to stay in Boston. By then, my family had left Lebanon under duress and they were in Boston. So I was working with Dr. Dalton, who was the division director at Tufts. get to. She was trying to recruit me, and then through my interviews in Boston, I interviewed at Beth Israel, and I met a faculty there. His name was Peter Heil, and Peter told me, you know, I'm leaving, or in a way that don't come here. And Peter called a physician coming from UC Davis who was starting an MFM division at EVMS. And he said, this guy is looking for a job, and here's his number, and he does ultrasound. So Art Evans calls our apartment in New Haven. My son, Sammy, was 5 at the time. He writes the numbers down, and he gives me a message when I get home. I kept it in my pocket for 2 days. I didn't know, should I call, should I not call? I really wanted to stay in Boston. Then out of frustration, I called, and Art said, why don't you come to interview, no strings attached. I came, I fell in love with the place. I saw a lot of opportunities. Mm-hmm. And I came on a Friday. I called him on Monday. I said, I'll take the job, not knowing really what my salary was going to be. So that's how I ended up at EVMS after this whole full circle.
Wow.
And at Yale, it was amazing. Well, I mean, in terms of your colleagues, right?
Yeah, it was an incredible experience for me. Really incredible. You know, Dr. Hobbins, who I admire, and my mentor really in this journey was there for half the year. Dr. Coppell, who I respect tremendously, was there. Dr. Romero, personal friend and a great admirer of him, was there also. So there was incredible, you know, Ruben Quintero was there. He was a fellow when I was a fellow. Ziggy Rodmich was there, a fellow. And so the incredible energy, and Yale really changed my approach to academics in a big way. Mm-hmm. That year really was a pivotal year in my career.
Wow. That's so incredible. One thing I just want to, I love how, you know, all the stories you're sharing, no matter how long ago it is, I can feel like you're still so present with all of them. Like the details that you remember, it's just so beautiful how you share that. I just wanted to point it out. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
And you know, when you came to EVMS, it sounds like it was a pretty new program, if I'm understanding that correctly. What was that like for you? You know, because a lot of, you know, thinking about like the younger generation, when we're thinking about looking for jobs, a lot of time people are looking for places where they can feel like they can already walk into a team. But how do you navigate walking into something, starting something really new and making it as great as you did? You know, can you share a little bit about that journey?
Yeah, and I think I credit my journey at EVMS really primarily for Dr. Art Evans. Dr. Evans was coming as a director from UC Davis to lead a new group to start an MFM practice and expand an MFM practice at EVMS. He recruited me as director of ultrasound. We had 2 sonographers. We were seeing about 6-7 patients per day. That was the scope of the ultrasound practice when I arrived. But to his credit, he believed in what I could do, and which is unheard of today. He said, how many ultrasound systems you need? And I said 4, 2 Accusons, 2 ATLs at the time. I mean, to start now, if I'm recruiting somebody, I'll say, okay, I'll buy you 1, and then the next one, then I get 4 ultrasound systems from day 1, wow. And I was seeing 7 patients a day. And I think he provided a lot of support, and I learned from him a lot. I learned how he interacted with his peers, and I learned how he interacted with patients. So he had a great influence on me, and frankly, I credit a lot of the growth that happened at EVMS for his vision. Dr. Evans has retired from the University of Cincinnati, where he was a chair. So I started working, and my first job was to build relationship with the referring community. So what I have done is, and I always advise my fellows and mentor my fellows in that way, you always speak positively about everybody around you. And if there's any issue, it should be dealt behind closed doors. So I went from day 1, and I introduced myself to every single referring provider in the region. I said, this is my cell phone. You call me for anything, and this is what I do, and this is what we do. And that's how I built the practice over time. It's really making sure that you're providing quality and you're providing service. And I was director of ultrasound for about 3-4 years. And then there was an opening for an MFM division director. And I throughout my whole stay now will be 34 years almost at EVMS.
Wow.
I did one interview for another job, is at the Cedar Sinai in LA when Dr. Platt was the chair. He reached out, he said, Alfred, come and look. That was the only interview that I've done. I think, and I came back and I shared that with Dr. Evans. He had moved to the dean's office. And then he said, we're going to make you division director. Don't leave. So I became a young division director, and I had a lot of bruises because I wanted everybody to work as hard as I do, and I wanted everybody to be productive as much as I do. And I think over time I realized that I needed to make sure I identify the strength in my faculty and provide support to promote their strength. And it took me a little bit of time to identify that, but that helped me really grow the division and expand. And we brought in 2 private practices into the division and create a large MFM practice in Southeastern Virginia. The chair position got open. I had zero interest in applying. I was happy doing my research and within the division. Then I started seeing who is coming to apply here. And Dr. Platt, to his credit, he said, Alfred, if you're committed to the region, you better apply. So I applied. And there's another funny story here. I applied and I was selected by the search committee. And the dean invites me to come to kind of finalize the details of my chairmanship. So I put in a plan together. Again, this was maybe 25 years ago, $400,000 a year for 3 years, which is nothing. I had a program on probation for 12 citations by the ACGME. I had no oncology. I had no urology, urology, and I had 1 or 2 generalists. So you could see the department needed incredible build-up. So I remember vividly, I was sitting across the dean, and he had his vice dean and the CEO of the practice on either side. And I said, this is my plan. And he said, Alfred, okay, great. We have the money. If you want to recruit somebody, you write a business plan and come to me, and we'll look into giving you the money. Maybe as naive or as young as I was, I stood out and I said, I didn't want this job to start with. Either I get the money into the accounts of the department, or I don't want it. And I walked out. I was covering labor and delivery. I went back to labor and delivery.
Good for you.
Yeah. 15 minutes later, they called me back. They said, come in, and that to me was a lesson of what not to do in a leadership position. So not from what I've done, but what I have encountered into that. So I became chair, and I moved into the dean's office, really not by choice. I did not ask or lobby for this. There was some crisis that happened here, and the chair of the board of the medical school came to me and said, Alfred, we need your help. I said, I'll do it as interim for 8 months. I'll see if I can get things settled. Then I'll go back to my chair position. They came to me after 8 months. They said, you need to extend. I extended for another 8 months. And then we're negotiating to bring the medical school and the university together. So then I realized that I cannot go back. So, and that's why I recruited Dr. Sadeh, and I stayed in my position where I am today, evolved into the executive vice president for health sciences.
And can you explain a little bit what that is, for people?
Yes. So we have within Old Dominion University, our university, several schools that form health sciences. So we have School of Nursing, School of Public Health, School of Medicine, College of Health Sciences, and School of Health Professions. So there are 5 schools that have close to 5,000 students. Wow. And there's a dean over each school, and the deans report to me. So I oversee all health sciences, not only the medical school, but the other specialties within, which really gives me a better overlook of how to manage resources and how to grow and how to build relationships between nursing and medical students and so forth. It's an exciting job that really has a lot of potential for the community where we are.
Wow.
It's just amazing, Alfred, how you've done it, because, you continued, you spoke offline, your books are unbelievable, read everywhere, you continue to write them yourself. We'll talk about your family soon. You have a wonderful family. And what impresses me the most is that you've never been, quote unquote, afraid. You have such a big position responsible for thousands, maybe tens of thousands of people. But you've done it with a smile. I guess, could you give I would like a lot of people to hear your message of, you can do it, with your background, what you explained, you can do it. Don't be afraid.
Yeah. So I think, and I reflect, I had a meeting with Dr. Louis, who's our new dean. We're very happy to have her on campus and very proud to be able to recruit her here. We had a 2-hour meeting earlier in the week to talk about, how we work together and all this. And I shared with her some high level things that I think is really important in a leader in that position. I think there are several things that I think you need to be successful in a position such as chair or dean or at a higher level. I think you need to have at all levels respect for everybody around you. I think no matter what the answer to a problem is or the answer to an ask or request is, if it is done in respect, I think the other parties always appreciate that. You could say no, because you have to say no many times in your position. You have limited resources and you have to figure. You can say no in a way that people respect that. The second thing that I think is really critical in positions like this is transparency. I think every decision that I have made in my position where I am, I would have no issues in it being public and I can explain it. If I'm giving a chair some resources, I need to be able to open it up for all the chairs and explain why I have done that. And I think that is really, really important in that position to make sure. The third element that I think is so critical in leadership, especially in the world we live in, is emotional intelligence. I think many times chairs become chairs or deans because they have published 5,000 papers or they're the best surgeons in the world. That set of qualities that you need to lead people are very different than the qualities you need to be a superb surgeon or a superb researcher. And emotional intelligence is really critical. Unlike what they teach in business schools, I always worked through the process that any deal I make, business deal I make related to the medical school or the department, is a deal that I would have no issues accepting on the other side. In other words, I'm not trying to screw people by taking money from them. Those deals will not last long. I think it is all built on strong mutual relationships with the people around us, and having great relationship with the CEO of the hospital, having great relationship with the head of the practice plan, I think really puts the foundation to create relationships. I mean, in the integration between EVMS and Old Dominion University, I was able to negotiate with the support, of course, with the president of Old Dominion University, Dr. Hemphill, close to $800 million in support over the next 10 years. From the health system, $350 million from the health system, and the rest from the Commonwealth of Virginia. And then we had donors that came in and really put a lot of resources into the program. I would have never been able to do any of those deals if we didn't have a strong foundation of personal relationships with the people we were working with. So emotional intelligence is really important. And the fourth thing that it took me a while to learn, that this is just a job. I think life is bigger than your job in the office, whether you're the dean, you're the president. There is life, and life is too short, and you have to make sure you take care of yourself, you take care of your family, you take care of your friends as part of that.
Wow. I'm just speechless.
She's crying.
Yeah, no, that was so beautiful. No, thank you for sharing that. I think those are such important words. And it really shines. I mean, how you show up and the way you work, it's so grounded in gratitude and humility and honesty. And I think that is so beautiful. So thank you for inspiring us with that, really important role in leadership. And you touched a little bit on, family and friends and life outside work. How do you balance, you with all your incredible responsibilities? How do you make time for those things for yourself?
Yeah. So with grandkids now, and Vince, wait until you have grandkids. That's a different approach. It's not that you don't love your kids, but they are certainly special. I think efficiency is really key to be able to do this. And in today's world and how busy we are, and Dr. Berghella, in his incredible academic impact and influence on the world, knows this. A lot of the work has to come on your time. To be able to write books, to be able to impact, to be able to have a big academic footprint, you need to spend some of your personal time on this. Mm-hmm. So I have a gift of being very efficient in doing work. I think that really helped me. And on the weekends, for instance, I tend to wake up early and I spend 2, 3, 4 hours until 9, 10 a.m. working on my academic work. And then I have the rest of the day for family and friends and so forth. So that really allowed me to be productive, allowed me to write the books that I've done. And I do it with a passion that I want to bring value to others, not just I want to add something on my CV. Mm-hmm. And I think that really had set me to really put the effort to make sure what I produce is valuable to others. To give you an example, of all the books that I've written 8 books, 4 on fetal echo that are very successful. One of the fetal echo editions, the 3rd edition, won the Book of the Year award from the British Medical Association for all medical books that year. And the first trimester book was a runner-up for the Book of the Year award. Of all the books that I've done, the free online book, to me, was the most important book that I've done. I think to hear from faraway places calling me or emailing me, say, can I use the pictures to give a presentation in Nairobi or in Australia, is so important to me. I started this project really during my outreach travel to create, because when I was in Haiti, I realized that for them to buy a book, it's about a 1-month salary, and there's no way they can afford it. And this was before Google was so proficient and a lot of information was online. So I started the project to write something for them as a manual. Mm-hmm. Then I realized that there's more to this and it could expand it to residency. And then I ended up with the online book that has been downloaded, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of times, and is translated to like 14 languages. Wow. And all this is done with a 0 budget. And I think that has been really, if you ask me of everything that I've done in my career, which one gave me with everything that in my position and academic work, I would tell you the ebook is the most close to my heart.
And education should be free, Alfred, and you have really epitomized that. As I said before, our sonographer, our fellows, everybody worships your book. I want to go back to the family issue because I've been to your house a few times. It's a cradle of love. If you don't mind, 2 kids and 3 grandkids. You can see the love. Your wonderful daughter, who I know you have mutual.
You trained at Philadelphia, and you had a big hand. And but Nicole, my daughter, did her ultrasound training at Jefferson, and she rotated with Vince, and she lived across the street from the office, so that was great.
Oh,
A lot of visits.
I saw her every day. It's just
Yeah.
seeing a little Alfred in women's clothes.
Doing so awesome. I'm so proud of her.
Very beautiful girl. And but again, in your field, so you have expired because professionally, we've been crying all morning, so to speak, here because of your success. But I have seen firsthand, your family, personal success. And the point I want to make, and I hope you can expand on it, is if you're not happy at home, it's hard to be as successful and positive as you've been at because you've been able to, make some changes and go forward and, inspire your kids and now grandkids as well. And that's for me been beautiful to see. I don't know if you want to say a couple of things about that.
Yeah, I think certainly family life is really important because, as you know, we all have stressful jobs and we all have coming home to a loving environment. I think is really, really incredibly helpful and purposeful to what we do. And I think life is too short, as you know. Before you know it, you're in an environment that you look back, and I always say, into the future, as has been mentioned before, the things you regret is the things you didn't do to really impact your life and make your life in a better environment. So I have a lovely wife, Sharon, who's very supportive of my work. As you could see, many times I'm away at work, and the last 4 years during the integration process has been a very challenging times. Working through, we all had our own jobs, but in addition to that, I was working till 9, 10 p.m. in meetings with legislators and negotiating deals and all this. And there was a lot of support at home, which I think is really, really critical for us.
wow.
The kids, I have a son. My son, Sammy, is a great guy. He's a wonderful person, wonderful father, and I'm really very proud of him.
No, that's so beautiful. No, thank you so much for sharing that. I love that. And in your whole career and you've worn so many hats and been in so many roles. Is there any particular role that brings you the most joy or is most fulfilling for you?
Yeah. So, unlike common wisdom, when I was appointed Dean President of EVMS before integration with ODU, I negotiated that I continue to see patients 2.5 days a week, and I continue as the fellowship director. And I'm still am today.
Wow.
And the reason for me, first, seeing patients is what I love to do. And I have built over the years incredible relationship with a lot of my patients that I have interacted with at a very challenging time in their lives. And I felt that with my training, I need to continue to provide the support to our patients and our community. So I negotiated, and I still do 2.5 days a week, primarily in the ultrasound, rarely in the OR, but primarily in the ultrasound today. The fellowship program is something that I really want to hold on to until now. The associate fellowship director meets the criteria to take over Dr. Waller, who will be a superb fellowship director to take over. The reason for this is it is so stimulating to me to bring those fellows in who are all brilliant coming in and see them on the way out with their tremendous skills and going and leading women's health in the communities that they are. And I think that is so powerful to me to see that. And I'm close friends with all of them, and they are very quick in texting me, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And I really want to do that, and I encourage them to do that. So I think that's an area that I really, really value. So if you ask me, Kavita, what is the most powerful thing that I do today, I would say the fellowship director.
Wow. I love that.
That's amazing. One thing I wanted to touch on was the fact you were SMFM president and you
Mhm.
also were involved with some other societies, including ISWAG. And I'm
Mhm.
so happy we found out that we're going to be together in Cancun in a few days for ISWAG again. 30 years coming, going to
Right.
ISWAG. uh, but one thing I remember I wanted to touch on is that you were close to being leader in both places, and how you decide what to do and not to do. And I guess your best experiences at ISWAG, at SMFM, what you remember, so that our young people can get involved in our societies and have leadership opportunities like you have had.
Yeah. Thanks for that question. I think my advice first to our junior faculty that are interested in growth in societies, and I strongly encourage this because that gives you a tremendous experience. As you know, Vincent, you led SMFM very beautifully, is to do hard work. Start at the committee level and work hard, because your promotion into leadership of a committee, then into the board, and then the leadership of the society is really based on others watching you and observing your hard work. So that's my message going in. The field is competitive, but certainly you work hard, you will make it. So my first leadership was the American Institute of Ultrasound in Medicine,
That's right. Yeah.
and that was, and I wanted to make an impact. So I worked to create an initiative called Ultrasound First,
Mhm.
which is to reduce radiation exposure and MRI in all fields of ultrasound. And that has gotten really, really a lot of success over time. Then I got on the board of
You
SM.
were president at IUM,
I was
right?
president of AIUM.
I
Yeah.
mean, for the audience to just understand, president of IUM, that's unbelievable.
The-
Radiologists, people
yeah,
outside
it's
of.
all ultrasound, which is really a very
Right,
impactful
right.
and beautiful organization. Then I got on the board of SMFM, really thanks in big part to my very close mentor and friend, Dr. Dan O'Keefe.
Mhm.
Um, the way I got in, because I was involved in the nuchal translucency initiative that SMFM did, and I was leading a significant portion of that. And Dan was watching my work and then pushed to put me on the board. And really, thanks to Dan that I got on the board. And from the board, I went into the executive committee, and then I became president of SMFM. At the same time, I was offered the ISWAG presidency to run,
Wow.
certainly. But then I
Unbelievable.
felt that it would not, because I have been on the executive committee and the board of ISWAG for a while. I felt it was not appropriate for SMFM that I am president in two camps, and I declined to run for the presidency at ISWAG. That was the events that happened at that time. Um, I think I have been engaged with SMFM. As you know, SMFM is our first membership organization for all maternal fetal medicine, and it's so honoring to be in that position. That really is an incredible honor to be leading the SMFM because of the impact it has. And I tell everybody it is an organization that today, as I watch from the outside in, is ran very, very well. So kudos to the team that is on the inside. Kudos to the management team that is doing an incredible job in running the organization.
Wow. Oh, that's absolutely incredible. And I'm sure doing through all these journeys and leadership roles and stuff, it's of course it's probably not just been smooth sailing. It's probably had, easier days and some challenges. When navigating challenges or going through obstacles, is there a certain mindset that helps you persevere or get through? Like, how do you get yourself through challenging moments when they
Yeah.
arise?
So I have learned over time to have this internal philosophy that the problems of the day will not be the problems a month or two from now. We worry about things so much every day. And if you sleep over and wait and see, you look back and say, that was silly how much we worried for these
Mm.
problems here and there and so forth. So, and going back to my discussion with Judette, as you know, the earlier in the week,
Mhm.
is, this is a job. This is your job. This is not your life. This is your job. You have to keep things in perspective. You have to make sure that you maintain your sanity. You have to make sure you maintain your wellness. Because at the end of the day, if you're not well, if you're not enjoying what you're doing, you're going to suffer, and everybody around you is going to suffer. So the problems that we face, and probably into the future, we're going to have a lot of problems given the change in healthcare and all that's coming our way. We need to keep things in perspectives and need to keep things, what is really important and what is not important in life. Mm-hmm. Although we are fully committed to our jobs and we're going to work hard to make an impact, at the end of the day, you can keep that in check. And I think that would help minimize the significance of the problems that we face. Work through resolving them. There's absolutely no questions related to that. But I think our work is just a job that we're committing to make perfect. But at the same time, there's more to that in life.
That's beautiful.
Alfred, one of my last questions will be, you must be there at this point. I'm thinking, now at this beautiful hour, war, coming to the U.S., you've never been, you don't have the money. Resilience is a word that comes, up thinking about what you've done. But you've had this amazing drive inside of you. And, I can relate, to that myself. That's why I feel so close to you. But you must feel so, in Italian we say appagato, so fulfilled of what you've done, so proud. We talked about some of the people who mentored you, but you must be so proud of the people you have mentored, including somebody as you, Louis, now coming to be your dean and being able to attract so many people, having such a great division and department. There must be a sense of, when you look back 30,000 feet of fulfillment, which is a nice one to have.
Yeah, I mean, I am fulfilled. I think I always say, and I always tell my fellows that at the end of the day, it is about the value you brought to others. Mm-hmm. How we will be judged, not what you have done, not what your possessions are, none of that. And I think I have managed to bring value to others, but I'm always inside of me, I always have a sense of anxiety and underpinning anxiety, not visible to the world. And my new thing now, which I have decided not to share, but I'll share at the closing minutes of this beautiful, discussion. It took me a long time, and I spent the last 2-3 years learning about the impact of nutrition on chronic illnesses in the United States, because in my role now at the level of the Virginia Health Sciences, my eye is on the community, my eye on the workforce development that is needed to meet the demands and so forth. And I have learned over the years that and I put a lot of effort in researching this field tremendously over the past 2-3 years, that many of the illnesses that we care for are so foundational in nutrition and how nutrition is. Impact of processed food, impact of sugar, a lot of complications in pregnancies and outside. So I have a new focus is on nutrition and the value of nutrition in healthcare. And with the help of a very generous donor, I am starting a nutrition science institute at Old Dominion University that will span over the Virginia Health Sciences. And I will be recruiting a major national leader to lead this, because I think the future of healthcare is so much tied to sound nutrition and reducing these chronic illnesses beyond what we do day to day. I always tell people I'm graduating medical students who are really pharma agents. They go out and write prescriptions. They treat the symptom rather than the disease, rather than the person. And how do I shift to treat the person rather than the symptom or the disease? So that's a new focus I have. I'm putting a lot of effort into this, but I think it's so critical to the future.
Wow, no, that's so beautiful. It's so inspiring to continue to see that no matter what, you keep looking at where can you make more positive impact. There's no like, oh, I've made it to this position, let's stop here. But the goal is always, how can I keep serving? And I think that is just so beautiful. Yeah. And one fun question I always kind of like to ask when we're getting close to the end is, if you had to describe yourself in one word, what would that be?
Humble, I would say.
I love that. That definitely shines through. I think that's absolutely true.
And I got that from my dad. I watched my dad. My dad worked in the hospital in the purchasing department, and I watched how he interacted with doctors and others that come to him. He was incredibly servant to everybody, and he would end the discussion, "What can I do for you?" Always at the end. And I use that very often with a lot of people around. It's like, how can I help you? What can I do for you? Is there anything I could do for you? And I think that is really impactful, had been impactful in my career.
Wow.
I can't thank you enough as we wrap it up, Alfred, for being so transparent as well. Not only humble, but, again, I go back to the first time we met and how impressed I was. At first, I knew about your publications and your roles, etc., about how great you were with fetal echo and things, but your amazing lectures. But I've been so much more impressed by the person you are. I think one of the messages that I want to emphasize, you are yourself. You're a win-win person. People who interact with you, you're going to get something from them, but they're going to get just as much, if not more, from you. And the example you've been for people like me, who are a little bit junior but almost same age as you, has been amazing in terms of positivity, giving to others and receiving back. It's really all about relationships, like you said, and you've been amazing. I've seen you, interact with so many colleagues so well. You have so many good friends that you can rely on. And I think, one of the messages is build that family of mentors, friends, mentee, above you, below you, same level, whatever. They're all really the same. We're really people at the end, and it doesn't matter what your role or salary or whatever is. And you've done that as beautifully as anybody else.
Well, thank you for saying that. I certainly value our friendship and tremendously, and value the love that we have for each other. We've been along this similar journey, really. And I have watched you with admiration over the years, and see your commitment to education and commitment to the field had been tremendous. So thank you for I value tremendously the relationship we have.
Thank you, Alfred.
Wow, that's beautiful. Dr. Abuhamad, any closing words, and then I will wrap it up for our audience.
Well, no, I'm honored to be here. I shared some stories I usually don't share, but
great, we love that.
I think that was helpful to me. Hopefully it was helpful to others. And thank you for giving me that platform and this opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And on behalf of all the students and ultrasound learners from around the world, I'm sure I speak for everyone, thank you for the incredible work you've done to teach us this really important lesson so we can provide better care to our patients too. So thank you for that. I will wrap up by saying that, of course, there were several moments in this session that I was really speechless and almost to tears hearing you talk. I'm so honored and inspired. Your story reminds me of this saying that I read not too long ago. It says, your purpose is not what you do. Your purpose is what happens to others when you do what you do.
Yeah.
And I think that is truly how you've lived your life. So thank you so much for this beautiful hour and for what you do every day.
Well said, Kavita. That's Alfred Abuhamad for everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you guys. Thank you. Beautiful.
Bye-bye.